Pacific Islands are a melting pot of rich cultural and social heritage. Small island nations where tradition is celebrated and revered, along with religion. But like all societies, the small island nations and territories that make up the Pacific also face their fair share of social and economic challenges. The Pacific records some of the highest rates of domestic violence in the world. The Secretariat of the Pacific Community's Regional Rights Resource Team, RRT, works to support Pacific countries to address human rights challenges, including addressing violence against women, which is a grave human rights violation.
RRT provides technical assistance and training in human rights and gender and good governance. Why it's relevant in the Pacific is most Pacific Island countries have ratified human rights conventions and agreements. So in that ratification, they've made a promise to their people and in their countries that they will be implementing those conventions, the standards in those conventions. So what RRT does is that we assist countries in meeting those standards.
A national study on the issue in Tonga revealed that 3 in 4 women have suffered physical or sexual violence, and often in silence.
All the time that you talk about domestic violence in Tonga, people start thinking we are exaggerating. Eh? It's not really an issue in Tonga because it's always kept under the table, and every time you hear or anyone mention anything about it, you know, the people will start, you are unpopular because you are trying to tar the reputation of Tonga.
Lepolo Taunisila is among those working to break the silence by lobbying for changes to laws protecting women. Based at the Women's Affairs Division of Tonga's Ministry of Internal Affairs, she works as Tonga's focal officer for RRT. RRT supports changes to laws that address violence against women, and in addition, supports the development of campaigns to lobby for change through its legislative lobbying training project, sometimes referred to as LLP, which is supported by the Pacific Leadership Program. In Tonga, one of the campaigns focused on violence within the home. The campaign contributed to the passing of the Tonga Family Protection Act in 2013, which protects all family members from violence within the home. The Family Protection Act is Tonga's first comprehensive piece of legislation criminalizing domestic violence. An initiative of the government-led National Task Force working in partnership with civil society representatives, each lending their expertise to the development and successful lobbying for the Act.
We welcomed it when we first heard about it through the Changing Laws Protecting Women, and I think it was closer to home for us because not only do we deal with victims on a day-to-day basis, but through the experiences and through the stories that women and children have told us over the years, it just meant that we had to support the bill, and you know, whatever cost really.
It was apparent from the outset that I had a lot of work to do with explaining the eventual outcome, which is in terms of the bill. And there were a lot of questions raised when we conducted consultations with the religious denominations, the public at large, the women, the town officers, the MPs.
The Family Protection Bill addressed some issues considered sensitive to the hearts of Tongans, such as defining the meaning of family. So communicating with people as part of advocating for this big social change was part of the challenge, both on the streets in Tonga as well as in the halls of power.
Because there were so many angles that I was questioned on. What would a policeman do if there is a fight between a de facto relationship? The de facto relationship is the lady legitimate? If she's not, why is she there? What, the children, they're born out of legitimacy. Why are they there? They should be out of it. The land doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the male. These issues are all very new issues. So when you talk publicly, you've got to be careful, very, very be careful, that you don't upset people on that. So consequently, the word family was always used rather than de facto relationship, homosexuality, all of these issues that had very, very difficult connotations and very, very difficult interpretation in the Tongan. So for me to be on the ground and to be working there at the same time, know that I had my support from outside was very important.
It even came to, sacrificing weekends to brief the minister, and also just, gathering support as much as we could through all forms of mediums. For example, through Facebook. We were able to get the email contacts of the Minister of Internal Affairs and other key ministers and people's representatives so that we could debrief them while the debates were going on. And I think that was a critical strategy because as you can imagine, all the members of Parliament are not experts on every single issue. So having, our experiences put through that, that debriefing system, as well as Lebolo's, technical expertise through RRT, I think the two married each other well, and just giving each other, ongoing support.
On 4th September 2013, all 17 members of Tonga's Parliament voted in favour of the bill, which now comes into effect on 1st July 2014. For those behind the successful lobbying for this new law, maintaining a common vision and purpose was key.
It's the big goal, always looking at those women who have no voice, and children, and our children and their future. That's what kept us going. We know that this is something important which will protect the women and children of Tonga.
Those behind the success of the Family Protection Act are not alone. There are other campaigns in Tonga that are still ongoing.
My name is Joey Mataiele. I am the chairperson for the Tonga Ladies Association, which is the only network or association for the MSM and transgender.
Joey Mataiele is a Leti, a word derived from the English language meaning lady. For her, growing up in a prominent family in Tonga wasn't easy. Her story is one of forgiveness, determination, and bravery.
When you're young, they all think that what they're doing to you is good. Trying to change you, change your life to be a man when you don't feel like a man, and forcing you, verbally abusing you, physically abusing you. I used to walk down the market and someone would turn around and say, hey, AIDS, towards me. Like I'm the carrier, So we decided that we will do something about this.
The Tonga Ladies Association, TLA, was formed in July 1992 with just 5 members under the leadership of Mrs. Papiloa Foliaki. Soon after, they held their first advocacy workshop with church leaders.
Well, that was quite our luck because, unfortunately, one of the church leaders turned around, stood up and said to Mrs. Papiloa, "You're a devil. You're a sinful woman. You bring these children to, encourage their sodomy life, blah, blah, blah." He went on and on and on. And then after that, then when he sat down, then Papiloa stood up and said, paying her respect, and she said, I'd like to ask the minister of the so-and-so church to please tell me which Bible are you reading, because the Bible I'm reading is different from your Bible. The Bible I'm reading says to love thy neighbors, and these are my neighbors, these children.
The association has come a long way in its 22-year history. Without core funding, TLA has established an office in the capital Nuku'alofa, which also serves as a safe home. They've also funded 48 scholarships so far for school dropouts who would like to pursue further education and technical training.
Majority of the people that started this association were all school dropouts. You know, I for one is one of them. If it wasn't for the LLP training, I wouldn't even know how to write the submissions and all these things. I keep hearing about it, but I had never done it. When you're lobbying into, you know, the government and the process of it, who to do your lobbying to, how does it go, where does it go, and who to put it through, you know. So after going through that training, it sort of cleared a lot of path.
Like in Tonga, RRT has provided training support to campaigns in other Pacific Island nations through the LLP. The island archipelago of Vanuatu is home to 250,000 people, 49% of whom are women. 3 successful campaigns in Vanuatu include the lobbying for an increase in minimum wage, the introduction of a gender policy in the Vanuatu Christian Council, and the introduction of temporary special measures (TSM) for reserved seats for women in the municipal councils. Since independence in 1980, 5 women have been elected to Vanuatu's parliament. This is something Doris Day Kenneth Watson set out to change through TSM.
The recent introduction of TSM into municipal election was an opportunity to allow for a certain period of time, in this case it was 16 years, for women to be included into a municipal council, to observe and to be able to learn about issues within the municipal and how can they participate if they are involved and elected into the municipal council. And last year, 2013, 30% allocation for women into municipal election saw 5 women elected out of the 17 seats.
The idea of TSM Vanuatu had been floated by various women's institutions and organizations from as early as 2001. But according to the Director of Women's Affairs, they needed to step back in order to take the campaign forward.
Building on not only the training by PLP, but also the work that was done by RRT in 2010 in forming coalition in lobbying government, legislative lobbying, as well as leadership in Vanuatu. It empowers me to be able to ask questions like, why not TSM for Vanuatu to government leaders? At the time, it was seen as something not very useful. Since 2002, the approach has been at the highest level, which is the parliament. I had to compromise to say we started at a lower level, which is the municipal council level.
It took 3 years of strategic lobbying with various institutions and members of parliament before the TSM was approved.
Yeah, one of the greatest compromise I had to do was not involve women's groups. I had to form another grouping, another committee. I call it working committee in supporting women's leadership in Vanuatu, and in particular is TSM. I unpicked them because I believe that they are people who could lend us the support, strategic positions that were part of the coalition that enabled us to come up with a policy paper as well as the strategy on implementation. The implementing strategy on TSM was the thing that was missing.
Josephine Kalsuak is RRT's focal officer in Vanuatu, based at the Department of Women's Affairs. She provides support to activities on gender equality, human rights, and strategic legislative lobbying campaigns. Today she is conducting a workshop with members of the Vanuatu Christian Council, VCC. Ruth Dovo is VCC's Training and Development Manager.
In the 2011 legislative lobbying training, after that we decided to ask Josephine if she could assist us in formulating the gender policy of the VCC. The governance of the churches here in Vanuatu prompted us, the VCC, to develop this gender policy because, yes, of course, churches do respect women here in Vanuatu, but I think it's obvious that women do not have that equal opportunity in the decision-making bodies of the church.
Gender talk can be quite sensitive within many church halls. Developing content for the policy would require careful attention and knowing the right approach to take.
When you hear the term gender, it's not really about women. It's about men and women. We've just included 3 policy objectives in the gender policy. One is to mainstream gender into all governance level of the Vanuatu Christian Council. And the other one is to promote protection from gender-based violence. And the third one is to coordinate a supportive gender mainstreaming environment within the member churches to build the capacity of the churches on gender.
In essence, the VCC's gender policy is about working in partnership.
The participants disputed the word gender. They wanted to use the word shared responsibility of men and women. I had to tell them that the World Council of Churches and Pacific Conference of Churches also use the term gender. I also assured them that the gender policy would be approved by the board and also endorsed by the board, and it will go through the general meeting of the VCC. So that's how I convinced them to use the word gender on the policy itself. I'm really grateful to have a focal person here in Vanuatu who can always assist us, especially the churches.
Other campaigns have benefited from RRT support. Workers' Union representative Laureen Barney also participated in the LLP training. It empowered her to pursue an ambitious campaign for the increase of minimum wage in Vanuatu.
Before joining the Vanuatu Teachers Union, I was a primary school teacher. New to this work, I didn't have the required skills to be an advocate.
So I go training, all negotiating skills.
But when I attended the training by SPC RRT, I learned about negotiating skills, how to lobby, as well as working in a coalition with different partners to achieve a goal like changing part of a law or an act.
And training, how you me save look, so you me save change one law or part law, one act.
The increase in minimum wage from 26,000 Vatu to 30,000 Vatu per month would mean a 15.4% increase in salary earnings, a move that would benefit 80% of Vanuatu's workforce.
Our colleagues from the Workers' Union also took part in negotiations for the campaign.
And me feel like say he got need. So mi valai itake min inside lot tilak, and mi valai one could something say all ketalo cham.
From our survey findings, we all agreed that it is time for increase in the minimum wage.
Lift them up. Minimum wage.
Fostering a culture of support for human rights in the Pacific requires working with today's leaders as well as those of tomorrow. At the regional level, RRT has partnered with the University of the South Pacific to introduce to students a course which teaches the principles of leadership, governance, and human rights.
I'm currently doing a project on communication rights for social change here in Fiji, and the whole aspect of freedom of expression and the right to information and the right to for press freedom. Those are some of the elements of the human rights that we are basically doing our work on. But and it helps me, to be able to apply what I'm learning in class, and it helps me, guide me into the work that I have out in the field with the communities, in the speeches that we give, in the trainings that we offer.
But the course is good itself, and how they teach it, we get to debate, even do skits, how we express what we understand about the topics given. So there are different forms that they're using in how to teach this course, and it's really interesting.
Taking the brave steps to really move towards changing laws, changing policies, making positive changes in our countries, it does take bravery, it does take courage. It often doesn't take money, but it does take people to get together, work together in partnership, that building of coalitions, building of alliances between government, civil society, actors. That's been the real exciting part of this project.
Leaders hold positions in the seats of power, but they also just as comfortably reside in our homes and communities. Developing good leadership practices based on respect for human rights and good governance nurtures a culture where people willingly and bravely take a stand to ensure the lives of everyone, irrespective of ethnicity, age, gender, or creed, are valued and protected.